Good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is Matt Marquardt. I am the publisher of NorthIowaToday.com local news, and we are conducting our fourth candidate interview. We have Mr. Scott Peterson here this evening in the Mesa City Library once again. And many of you may not know a lot about Scott yet, but hopefully after this interview you will. Good evening, Scott.
Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Great. I'm doing great. Just recovering from the forum the other night, and it's great to have you here tonight so we can. The whole point of all these forums and interviews is to educate the voters, to bring them knowledge so they can make more informed votes. We want the voters to know what's going on, and we want them to meet you fellas. There's 8 of you candidates, and you're our 4th interview. And are you feeling excited yet? The election is just a few days away. How are you doing?
I'm definitely ready for it. Kind of under the weather right now, so
Okay.
been battling the cold all week, and so I'm ready for a little lull in the action.
Sure. So, Scott, let's start with this question. Why don't you tell the voters of Mason City about yourself? Introduce yourself. Tell us. We know you work at Curry's. We have published your press release about your personal self, but also let's go ahead and tell the voters about yourself a little bit, your job, your family, your history, that kind of thing.
Okay. I've been at Curry's for about 10 years. 3 of those years, the last 3 years, I've been the frame parts lead. I cover first, second, and third shifts. I've got about 25 people between those 3 shifts. And I basically just get everybody what they need, and I work on big projects, small projects.
Okay.
Try to reduce or increase our efficiency and
Sure.
make a better product for our users.
Absolutely.
And then I'm a single father. I've got 3 boys.
Oh, wow.
Ages 2, 6, and 7. Quentin,
Awesome.
Kinnick, and Simon.
Kinnick. You're a Hawkeye fan.
I am definitely a Hawkeye fan.
All right. Did you watch the Cyclone Hawkeye game this weekend?
I did.
That was a lopsided affair, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Awesome. So have you taken your boys down to any games or anything like
I
that?
haven't yet.
That'd be
Kinda
a lot of work, wouldn't it? 3
Yeah.
boys in the stadium. I just thought of that. That would be a
Yeah.
lot of work.
I know they want to ride the Hawkeye Express and
Yeah, there you go.
go to the game. So
Have you been down any yourself then?
I'm going Saturday for the game Saturday.
So you're going to watch that South Dakota State?
North Dakota State.
North Dakota State. Okay, they are ranked number 1 in the FCS. Is
Yes,
that right?
yep.
So they're saying that's going to be that could be a real war.
Yeah.
They're better than you and I.
Yeah.
Really, if you think about it, they're winning 3 national titles in a row?
I think they've got 4.
Maybe 4 or 5. Well, not to get off the subject, but I really think that'll be a good game. So, Scott, you've been at Curry's for how many years?
I've been at Curry's for 10 years.
10 years. Okay, and what were you up to prior to that?
I've really done everything and almost everything that you could do there.
Sure.
I started at the bottom like everybody else.
Right.
I lug doors and
We've all done the labor
did my grunt work, and
that's good. Right, builds character.
yeah.
So, Scott, tell us about what motivated. Let's start here. What motivated you to become a city council candidate?
I guess I've always held interest in not necessarily politics, but improvements. I like helping make things better.
Okay.
I think I've got a lot of ideas and a lot of motivation to actually help my community. That's one of my biggest things personally is servant leadership.
Okay.
I like to put myself out there to help others.
Interesting. Let's talk about some specific ideas that you might have for Mason City. What do you feel like Mason City is in a good place now, or do you feel like things can be improved? And if so, what could we improve in Mason City?
I definitely think we're doing some good things.
Mm-hmm.
There's places where we can improve. I'd like to see us more attentive to our population.
Okay.
And actually work to grow our population, and instead of just bring in business or bring in hotels.
Okay.
And if we bring in hotels, it needs to be something that's going to draw a public.
Certainly.
It needs to actually have a.
Certainly. So maybe the word you're wanting to use here is amenities to make the town more attractive.
Yeah.
We did hear a lot about that in the forum from the other candidates, just certain amenities that would draw certain segments. What kind of people should we draw to Mason City? What do you think?
I think we need to work more towards the younger generation.
Okay.
Because Mason City, I mean, I put it out on my Facebook page, Peterson for MC Council.
Okay, very good to know. Peterson for MC Council.
That, if you look at the numbers over the last 50 years, Mason City's population has been in a steady decline.
Certainly.
And if you look at the reason why, it's Mason City doesn't have anything to offer for the younger crowd. So if you come here to school and you get a degree, there's nothing to do. Mm-hmm. And you get that degree, you get a technical degree, there's no technical jobs here.
Right.
So you're going to be right out of
few
town.
and far between, isn't it?
You're going to go looking for that job that you actually went to school for.
Sure. So, Scott, you live, correct me if I'm wrong, you live on the north end of town, kind of? Do you live in the northwest quadrant of town?
Kind of northeast.
Northeast corner, okay.
I live by the dog park.
You live by the dog park, okay.
By Waterworks.
Okay. Let's back up here and we'll talk about some more specifics in a moment. But let's cover it just to get it out of the way. Maybe what do you feel? Where's Mason City at in the wake of the Prestige ordeal, and how do we move forward? That's kind of a standard thing that all the candidates have wanted to talk about. It's still pretty fresh in our minds. If you've done any door knocking, or you've said you talked to a lot of folks, maybe they're bringing that up. What are you hearing? What can we do to move past that?
That is the number one thing that I've actually heard when I've been out talking to people.
Okay, number one thing is
Prestige.
Still, months after the fact.
I think Mason City is ready to move forward. I really do. And sure. I think electing a new official is that step that Mason City wants to see. I don't think we really need to bring anybody in to help us get through it.
There was talk by another candidate about, I think it was the Olson Project. Does that sound right? There's a program where they can bring, that we can either purchase it or bring it in, where we can attempt to heal the community. But it sounds like you think change starts in City Hall itself.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying elect a new official and start bringing in some new thoughts, new ideas in City Hall.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting thought.
And I think that's why you see 8 candidates right now, is because people want to see change.
Maybe the town knows what it's going to take to heal, and they're responding on its. All you 8 gentlemen have stepped up, and we're seeing the community maybe try to heal itself a little bit here.
This is a big thing. There's 8 candidates.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Scott, on that. This is a major thing. This race will determine if we're going to continue down the road with the mayor the way we've been going, or are we going to get a new fresh face, or even an old face that's not so much establishment. There may be 7 new candidates and 1 establishment candidate. Which way is the town going to go? Are we going to bring in a fresh guy like Scott, or are we going to go with a chamber candidate? So it's very interesting, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Scott, now let's say we have to move into the future. We all need to move forward. Prestige is over. You're saying we can heal with fresh faces, fresh blood, or just a new person in City Hall. The new thing that was the old story, that's kind of the new big story once again, is the hotel. Just like we were chatting about prior to turning the camera on a little bit. You're well aware that that's a multi-pronged project. Tell us what you think of it. Have you dug into the guts of any of the paperwork? Have you read in the newspaper? Have you read on NIT? What do you know about it, and what do you think of it?
I've read a little bit into it.
Okay.
I think it would be a positive for the community.
Okay.
To have that draw from the arena and from the music pavilion that they're talking about.
Right.
And if you're going to bring a hotel in, you're going to need a reason that people are going to come, like that music pavilion and the arena.
Certainly.
You can't just bring a hotel in for the sake of bringing a hotel in. So
that was their original plan, but yeah, keep going. That was what they wanted to do. They were just gonna. Actually, they started in 2013.
Yeah. Talking
about bringing in a hotel, and that was all it was going to be. And then they decided they could go for the state money in Des Moines, and now it's become 5 points, like you were saying, the ramp, the pavilion, the arena, the hotel, and a mixed-use building.
Right.
So, and it sounds like you think that that would be a positive thing if all that could come to fruition.
Yes, if it all comes together like that, yes, I agree.
You think the state will give us our money? Are you following that segment of it?
You know, it's, if they get them all sold, that's
Right.
that's such a huge thing.
Yep.
If you look at the mall, there's not a lot of business in there, but is this arena going to generate that business? Is that arena going to bring
That's
business
what
back
the,
into the mall?
people that think that this project is great are saying that the arena will bring the mall back to life, that you'll see restaurants and bars and new shops. And then you have to add in too, under the hotel, if I'm not mistaken, and even with the mixed use building, I believe there'll be retail attached to all that. So that's an awful lot of new retail
for the tax.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of new retail in our downtown. So I think Mason City's been struggling. You've been here quite a while. We've been struggling for years on how to rejuvenate, get bodies down, give our downtown a pulse, I should say. And do you think, is there anything else we can do? Or, we've dumped tens of millions of dollars into the downtown. Let's phrase the question this way, Scott. Are we just doing enough downtown, or are we doing too much downtown, or do we need to start thinking about the rest of the community?
I think we've done a good job. I think if they bring in the arena, that should be sufficient. I think we've done a lot of good work there, but we need to broaden our focus a little bit more.
Okay.
Like if you're bringing in a hotel, why not do something like Owatonna and bring in a hotel that's got a water park in it? That's going to bring people in.
That's an amenity.
That's not just bringing a hotel in for the sake of a hotel.
Sure, that's a draw. Is I think what we're both trying to say here. That would be a draw, and I think at some point, a couple, 2-3 years back, that was part of the discussion. If you were watching, I think it was in 2011, they wanted to bring an arena down and build it over by the fire station.
Yeah, and
I think
south parking lot.
Yeah, right in the parking lot, part of the principal parking area there along the river. And I think even there was talk of a water park, which would probably be a fun thing that would get people, bring them into town and give them something to do. So I think you're onto something with the water park idea there. What about the corridors into town? We have 4 main corridors into town. Obviously, north, south, east, and west.
Yep.
Some look better than others. Some look much better than others. Is that a problem? And what could we do? Or is that not something that you're really focused on much?
I think we should definitely take a look at the ones that need work, because that's like first impressions. You come into town and you see a scurvy sign.
It's true.
Or you see no sign. That doesn't say a lot for us welcoming people in.
Certainly. Maybe there's some signage or some beautification that could be a part of a program that the city could set staff to put together or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a more specific idea that the council is pursuing. Have you followed the closing of 9th Street Northwest at all? Have you dug into that one? I know what that's about, or what do you think about that? And what if any concerns would you have about closing 9th Street Northwest up there, just off of Monroe, by the way?
Right.
I
don't think the citizens want that.
Okay.
I really don't.
Okay.
Especially the people that live in that area.
Okay.
I don't think they want. They're so used to traveling that road. I use that road on occasion, not all the time, but I do.
Sure.
So, I don't think that's what they want.
Okay. It sounds like you might be talking to some people in that area. Are you thinking, Scott, that could be a safety issue, or just a convenience issue, or possibly both, a combination of that?
Both.
Okay. There's been talk that there could be a slower response time for our fire and police to get into there, so there could be a potential. That's kind of some of the words we're getting in our newsroom. So I don't know if you heard that or if that concerns you.
I haven't heard that one, but that is definitely a possibility.
Right.
It definitely could slow the
if you think about the logistics of getting into that, you'd have Jackson Avenue, or you'd have to go over the overpass and come in on one of the other streets there. So, yeah, just have you noticed, by the way, Scott, the trails that are going in around town?
I
What
have.
do you think about that and the money that's spent on that? Are you feeling good about that?
I don't understand all the placement of all the trails, but I think it's good. I do.
That sounds like something I would say, but yeah. They did put some trail work out there. It used to be WS Live. It's called something else now. They changed the name, but they've got a nice wide blacktop trail around that back behind Walmart for some reason, and that was like one of the first ones they did.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, people can't walk along Monroe up until now, and you know we've actually had a fatality 2 winters ago where someone had to walk in the street because of the snow and there's nowhere to walk, and they lost their life. They got run over by a car.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to do all the talking here, but no, I want to know: are you in favor of those? Is that an amenity that you like, and should we do more of that? I think this quiet zone thing with the closing and the railroads, I think we'll see more. Is that something you feel good about?
The quiet zone or the trails?
Well, they're kind of connected, but more trails and more
I'd like to see
opportunity.
more trails. You know, people. That's another one of those things that's going to draw a younger crowd. That's going to,
right.
You know, people that want to go out and run. Kids want to go out and run. They want to go out and ride their bikes.
Sure.
So,
which park do you and your family use the most?
We do East Park. We do Georgia Hanford. You know, we try to hit them all, honestly.
Do you feel like the parks are in good condition?
I think the ones that we normally hit are.
Go to the deer park, deer pen and all that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, let's switch gears. I got another question for you. I'm thinking back, I'm reminiscing about two nights ago now, some questions that we were posing to the other candidates. And one of the questions was the culture in City Hall. Scott, if you've followed the coverage in North Iowa Today, and if you've just if you are acquainted with any city employees, you'd know that there has been there was a major lawsuit that we settled with a gentleman that was his job was taken from him at City Hall for various reasons. There was some hostile work environment complaints that have been filed. And then you may also have been aware, Scott, that they attempted to privatize our sanitation department, and there was up to 15 gentlemen or more may have lost their jobs if that had come to pass. It didn't. But what do you think about the treatment of city workers, and do you have any concerns, or do you feel, from your vantage point, that there is any issue at all in City Hall with the culture there?
From what you just told me, I would say, you know, if that's how we're treating our city employees, that's not right.
Okay.
You know, there's
you're a supervisor at Curry's, right?
Yep.
So you have some experience in working and motivating folks and getting the most out of them and bringing the best out of your team for a result. Do you feel like it's appropriate for a boss to come in and say, you either do it my way or you're out of here, or is there other ways to do things?
That's not. There's different styles of leadership. That's not my style.
Okay, what's your style of leadership?
I believe that there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to say.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
Just because I have my way,
sure,
you might be able to do it a better, different way. So if I allow people to be free thinkers and
sure,
and
so
bring
you're more of a
different ideas
hands-off type of leader.
I wouldn't say I'm hands off,
But you're in there. Okay.
And I guess I'd say I'm more of a collaborative leader. I like to see.
That's a good word.
I like to see everybody bring something to the table.
Okay. Interesting. What could we expect if Scott Peterson is elected? What would be some of the first couple, 2-3 things Scott Peterson would do after he's sworn into office? What would you do?
I think one of my biggest things I've said is population. We need to target a younger demographic to bring more livelihood back to Mason City, to grow our population. And I think one of the ways that we could do that is, like I said, the technical jobs. And one guy that I talked to did pose a really good idea, and I did a little research on it about there's only one city in Iowa that has GigaNet services.
Okay.
Gigabyte per second internet services.
Certainly.
Cedar Falls. So by doing that, Cedar Falls set themselves up for let's say like a tech company, or you're gonna get
Sure.
these more specified technical jobs to come in. These people are gonna bring their families in, or maybe it's a bachelor coming in for this job, and then he starts a family here and grows roots. It's
Sure.
it's those kinds of things that I think we need to start with, and then we can look at some of these other jobs where, like right now, Mason City has a very low unemployment rate, and
It does. It turns out that we have maybe thousands of jobs, or at least hundreds, that are going unfilled. Maybe they're not
Yeah.
all real high paying, but I challenge somebody to find any place in town that's not hiring.
yeah, we have a 3% unemployment rate, and I think the state average is at like 4.3 or something like that.
Sure. Now, Scott, you strike me as a real easygoing, laid-back kind of fella. Tell me about how important is it, temperament? This is something me and Mr. Adams spoke about, temperament. And I want to frame this question a little more carefully. If you followed, obviously you have been following, Scott, along with what has taken place. We had a council person say that if he owned a business, he would not bring it to Mason City. We had a councilwoman say that the town has racists and kooks in it. We had another councilman say that if these are all different folks, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We had another councilman say that anyone that's not for unity should be mistrusted. We had a fourth council person, Scott, say that we should not do economic development in the public eye. That would be bad. To me, I want to be secretive. We need to operate our. So you heard my four statements.
Mm-hmm.
I've rounded up what these four individuals that are current city council people have said. Is that something we would expect to hear out of a Scott Peterson, or
No,
is that
it's not.
appropriate? And how would you react if you were sitting at that table as the fifth person of the sixth other councilman, and you heard a council person utter those words in public? These words were made in public to potentially thousands of people.
Yeah.
Some of it ended up in one of the most widely read, the biggest newspaper in the state, which I believe might have hit the AP.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, how did you feel about some of those comments, and how would you react if you were sitting there?
I don't think that's the kind of press Mason City needs. I think we need to put our best face forward, so to speak, and we need to be who we need to be, because you're not going to draw people in saying there's a bunch of crazy kooks and racists here, or
You might set our town back saying those kind of. It's fair to say that, Scott. I think you're right.
I think it's poor advertising for Mason City.
It probably
If people
doesn't
hear that
help.
from the leaders of the community. I don't.
So if you were elected, you wouldn't tell the world that if you had a business, you would not bring it to Mason City.
No.
Doesn't sound like the words of maybe perhaps somebody that's thinking straight. That's not him saying that. That's me. I got another one. Let's switch gears. I got another question for you. There's a little trend now. We've seen an up-and-coming community in Iowa, Johnston. This is me. I looked this up. I read a lot of news, and it helps me report better and speak to these gentlemen more concisely. The suburb of Johnston, Iowa, has taken a step that I find interesting. They have hired their own economic development professional that would work in City Hall. And essentially what it appears to be, what they've created, Scott, is their own economic development department.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right now in Mason City, you're probably aware of this, Scott. It seems like you're brushing up on the issues. We're pretty much reliant on our North Iowa Corridor, EDC, public-private agency that we throw $120,000 a year at, and then the county throws a few bucks at it, and Clear Lake throws a few bucks at it, and we just let them go off and do their thing, and we wait for a report. What I saw from Johnston is that they brought their own guy in, and they expect results. They're paying him a salary, and they're probably giving him a cell phone and a computer, And I would imagine that they're saying cold call and make something happen if you want to have a job. What do you think of that, Scott? Are we too reliant on our North Iowa quarter? Can we do more?
I think we could do more. That's definitely an interesting concept. I guess I'd like to compare like the demographics and see
Sure.
what kind of return they'd have on that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, I think
that's
probably
what
want
we
to
need.
measure results after 6 months, let's see what's going on here. Let's really stop and evaluate it. You'd hope that there'd be some results in a month or 6
Yeah.
weeks. He's got this gentleman or this lady that they were going to hire. I think you definitely want to have some benchmarks and some oversight. But would it be a bad thing to have somebody in City Hall that's totally transparent, that's coming to the council and at maybe every meeting and saying, here's what I did, here's what I spent my time on, here's who I called, here's who I talked to, here's some leads, and without blowing a deal.
Yeah.
Is it bad to have that kind of transparency? Was Brett Schoeneman right? Was he right when he said doing economic development in the public eye is bad? Was he right?
I think Mesa City wants transparency.
Okay.
I don't think they want backdoor deals, and they want to know where their community is going. They want somebody accountable. They want somebody that's gonna actually have their back and listen to them.
Certainly. Well, I think we've had a good discussion here. We've been going about 20 minutes, maybe. Why don't we, Scott? Is there any points that you want to? Any suggestions for topics we want to talk about? Or
no, I've kind of brought up a couple of things that I've really been considering.
Okay, well, why don't we do this, Scott? Why don't you give the voters of Mason City, tell them why they should vote for you, and give them your best sales pitch. The election's coming fast, and you've got to at least get in the top two. If we don't get a 50% plus one, we'll have a runoff. So obviously, you want to get that 50% plus one, or break into the top two. Tell the voters, Scott, why should we cast a vote for Scott Peterson?
You should vote for me because I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to actually listen to you, and I'm not just, when I put my heart into something, I go out there and I find the best research I can find. I'm not going to just rely on somebody that says this is what it is.
Sure.
I go out and do the digging and find my own research.
Okay.
I think City Hall needs somebody that's going to ask questions, but isn't going to overtalk things and kill the issue.
Okay.
I love this community, and I want to see it grow and prosper. So I hope you guys vote for me. If not,
sure.
We'll see where we go.
Well, Scott, the road to success is paved with failure. Some of us have already lost elections, and it's not the end of the world. There's lots more to come, and it looks like most of you gentlemen running for office are really solid guys that have the best interests of Mason City, and it's good to meet you, and we wish you the very best on Tuesday. Thank you, Scott.
Appreciate
You're
everything
welcome.
you're doing.
You're very welcome, sir.